Hello, everyone. Uh, Welcome to the panel discussion on online learning. So it's 4 o'clock, and just to be on time, and so that we can close on time, we'll get started quickly in the next couple of minutes. Again, welcome to all of those people who just joined. A couple of housekeeping things. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Anil Kumar Challa. I'm an adjunct professor in the Department of Biology at the University of Alabama at Birmingham in the US. I am also a visiting scientist at the Dr. Reddy's Institute of Life Sciences in Hyderabad. So the agenda for today's discussion would be, I'm going to make a few introductory remarks, followed by introducing the panelists, and we'll have a chat a little bit, and then we'll have discussion, then we'll close hopefully by 6 p.m. so that we can move on. So with that, what is the motivation behind this this panel discussion? So we are actually living in interesting times. In fact, when I say interesting times, not just this year, but I remember the Y2K scare that everybody had, that the whole world is going to collapse because the computers are not going to be able to handle this, the change of year on the computers. And ever since then, I think our lives have definitely changed with the internet slowly creeping into our lives to a point where it's taken up a lot of a lot of space in our lives. And I don't think people anticipated 2020 the way it has slowly emerged since late February to March. So I think some of these things will emerge. So what has happened in 2020? So we have the COVID-19, which actually disrupted pretty much all walks of life. A lot of people are really worried about the economic activity, social and cultural life. And right now, at least in this discussion, we are interested in focusing on education. So who are really affected by this? The direct stakeholders in education are obviously schools, colleges, and universities. And as individuals, parents, administrators, teachers, and students. What kinds of activities have been happening? Again, we are not discussing a lot of things about what's happening to everybody. But as a consequence of this interest in education and this very interesting situation about not being able to meet physically, all normal education activity has stopped in schools and colleges and universities. So online activity crept up. It's basically taken over via webinars, virtual workshops, and conferences, you name it. So what's happening on a daily basis? People have been worried, and the whole this issue came up towards the end of the academic year or the academic semester. So there's a lot of focus towards teaching and assessment. How do we do exams and those kinds of things? Where people have been really interested in making sure that the academic year is not disrupted. Then we have professional development programs for teachers, so that they can do a better job in terms of delivering knowledge, covering syllabus, and things like that. And I've been kind of watching a few policy discussions about, okay, where should this all be going? Where are we right now? Are we able to do things properly and things like that? But who's yet to speak, right? I mean, so it's like you can read this. The poor elephant has gone to a therapist. Sometimes even if I stand in the middle of the room, no one acknowledges me. So we have the elephant in the room by way of the panelists. I'm going to start introducing the panelists. So we have a spectrum. I mean, so again, this is not a comprehensive panel, but I think we have a reasonable representation. So we have students from grade 10, then we have students from first year BSc, we have second year integrated master students from, and they will introduce themselves very soon. And then we have a third year student and somebody who's finished her undergraduate studies and taking a gap year, who's a postbac. So quickly, I'll keep this on, and I will ask our youngest panelists from the high school to start off the introductions, and we'll go backwards to the postbac. So quickly, just your name and where you're from, and then I'll have a couple of more introductory remarks before we move on to our discussion. So Gayatri and Riya, take it away.
Hello everyone, my name is Gayatri Divakaruni. I'm from Manthan International School. I'm studying grade 10 currently. And I hope that today me and Ria can bring some unique perspectives to this panel. Thank you.
Hello everyone. I am Ria Meka and even I'm from Manthan International School and I am studying grade 10. And we hope that we could show you a different perspective apart from the others, especially because we're in high school and this lockdown affects us more. So yeah, thank you.
Nashra, go ahead.
Hello everyone, my name is Nashra Mubin and I'm pursuing my major in genetics, chemistry and microbiology from St. Anne's College of Women. I'm natively from Lucknow and currently living in Hyderabad. So yeah, today I'll try to put my perspective on online learning. Thank you.
Yeah, so hello everyone. This is Rachna Golikar, and even I'm from St. Anne's College for Women, Mehdipatnam, Hyderabad. So, as an undergraduate, hope we could put some insights on online education because we just crossed our intermediate and we don't know what to do next. So, hope for the good and amazing session.
Hello everyone, I'm Sayyada Noreen Fatima from St. Anne's College for Women, and even I'm pursuing my bachelor's with genetics, microbiology and chemistry. And today we are here to tell about our perspective of undergraduate on online education. I hope you all understand.
Hello everyone, Sara here. I am currently pursuing my second year of integrated MSc from the University of Hyderabad, and my major is chemistry. And we hope that you all have a good time here.
Good evening, everyone. This is Akash Kumar Das. I am a second year student in the integrated master's program at University of Hyderabad. I major in something called systems biology, and I hope that this discussion doesn't remain as a discussion and that it leads to something constructive happening.
Hello everyone, I am Acharya Samudra and I'm pursuing my second year of integrated masters. I'm mastering in physics and I too hope that this discussion helps lead us forward in this uncertain era of online education in times of this contagion and also helps us understand online education better in a general sense too.
Hello everyone, this is Mahati. I'm currently pursuing my BSc third year from University College of Women, Koti. My majors are genetics, biotechnology, zoology and biochemistry. I hope this session helps all the people learn about the student perspectives and deal with it in the proper way.
Hi everyone, I'm Lalita. I finished my bachelor's last year in May and I am currently in a gap year before I start my master's in the coming September. Thank you.
Thank you all. So you'll hear more from all of them. So just a couple of things, some pointers for an effective discussion. This particular session is being streamed live on YouTube and the link is right below. And there's a QR code if you have a mobile device which can use the QR code. So what we'd like to do is, as the discussion is going on, please type your comments or questions in the chat window, either on the YouTube channel or in the chat box, the chat window here on Zoom. Please mention your name, occupation, and location. So you could say, I am so-and-so, and I am a so-and-so. I mean, a student or a parent or an administrator, whatever you are, and from the place. And you can go on with your comment. You can quickly type that. Just to keep it streamlined, somebody from the panel is going to pick it up, and then we'll have it part of the discussion. So as I said, we'll be paying attention to your comments. So please bring them along. With that said, we'll get started with the, I'm going to turn off my slides, or maybe I will keep it so that people who are coming in can have access to the thing, the YouTube live stream. And you are welcome to share this live stream to anybody in your contacts. In case they don't have the Zoom link, they haven't been able to register and get this particular thing. They don't need to be part of the Zoom meeting here. They can actually watch it online on YouTube. So we'll get started. So I think we'll take the same sequence, and I'll start with Gayatri and Ria, where they can actually share what's been exciting. What did you like about the lockdown? I mean, I don't mean to be facetious in the sense, it's not like, okay, no school to go to, right? But what have you enjoyed in terms of online education? How has it been? How has your online education has been since the time when we started off the lockdown, I believe on March 22nd or so. So a quick perspective about what has happened. How was the transition like? And how did it start off? And what do you like the most about it?
So this is Ria again. So for me, especially because we were entering from 9 to 10, we were kind of scared about the board exams, and we were kind of rushing with the syllabus and everything. But since the lockdown came, there was a huge gap, and now the teachers are taking long hours. So our school timings were from 8:40 to 3, and we had like a 10-minute break between every 50-minute class. But now they reduced it to 8:40 to 2. So but still we have a bit of stress of coping up with all the new technology because of the online sessions, and we don't get to meet our friends. That's the major disadvantage. Because
we'll talk about the disadvantage, but I want to hear what you like about it. So what's been nice? What's been exciting?
So to be honest, I feel like there are more disadvantages, but in the advantages perspective is that we don't waste too much time in traveling, especially if you live far from the school, because I live far from the school and it takes a long time to reach. So it just saves a lot of time if you're at home. And also another advantage would be that you could get used to new technology, so it could be used later onwards as well. And there's no possibility of losing your books because everything is online. And yeah, that's about it.
Gayatri, do you have anything to add?
I think that goes for both of us.
Okay. So, so that's, at least you still have another 2 years. I understand that you've been really worried about the upcoming board exams, which is, probably, I mean, this is unexpected for everybody, right? So what has it been for the first year students? You were excited, okay, done with school, and now we are college kids. You walk in, you finish the first semester, and suddenly you haven't, it's a very interesting situation, right? So you haven't finished your first year. Hopefully all of you will go to second year. But how does it feel like? Now, I don't think anybody else before you actually had this experience of having it in the first year college. I mean, I can quickly tell you, when I was a first year student in my second semester, not a lockdown like this, I was at the Banaras Hindu University, and we had a synodi, which means that there was a closure of the university because of security reasons. There was some kind of some event happened. It was not so pleasant. And so they shut down the university, and we had no idea. And this is way back in the late 90s, right? So that is where I was trying to point out that I think every decade or 2 decades, something interesting happens. And we had no clue. There was no internet at that time. How has it been for you guys? What has been exciting for you?
So if we talk about from a first year student's perspective, I would say we were all prepared for our exams, because after 1 week we were having our exams. So most of our syllabus was completed, but there were when this lockdown happened, and at that time we were just thinking about how they are going to conduct the exams and in what manner they will conduct it. But as soon after that 1 week passed, and we got to know that there's no maybe the exam will get postponed, or uh, they are not yet confirmed what they will do. So at that time we were like clueless about that situation. So honestly, in the starting of the lockdown, we feel like it's kind of me time for us. So are we did something which was not centralized around the academics. We did something which was different from academics, which we normally don't do. And we explore ourselves, we explore our hobbies, and we try to do a lot of things. But as soon as the things were done, and we started coming back to our academics, that we are going to forget all those things which we learned throughout the year. But then the things we get used to it, like the we our daily routine was just disturbed. I would say that it was really disturbing for us, that the whole cycle got disturbed. So after few days, after 1 month, we find it difficult to again come back in that daily routine. So yeah, that's all about us. I think if Noreen and Rachna can add something.
Yeah, what was, so you said there was something, you actually discovered some new things. So what was
Yeah.
exciting about that? What did you like about exploring new things? What kinds of resources did you explore? What was, is there anything striking that you experienced?
Yeah, one thing was striking for me, that normally we go to college, attend our lectures, and by the time we come back from college, we don't have a lot of time to explore things that apart from those particular subjects. But in this lockdown, we try to explore the things like which are beyond this, and how can we learn something new about the subjects also. And apart from those subjects also, like I'm very much interested in psychology, so I tried to search the courses or the things from where I can learn about the psychology, or the things from where I can learn the normal things, like the structures of protein, or the normal things which are included in our subjects, but we don't find it normally. So I tried to search it on the Google platforms, and I tried to search about the ebooks which I don't find in my library usually, because someone else has issued it. So I tried to collect some ebooks which I can learn from, which I can read, and I can refer some of the topics of my subjects. So yeah, these were all the exciting thing for me to explore. There's ocean of knowledge, and I want to explore more about it. Not only from a particular subject like microbiology, I want to explore in the neuroscience also. I want to explore in biochemistry, although a very small part of biochemistry is in my syllabus. But yeah, I want to learn more about that.
So it seems like the lockdown freed you up. I mean, everybody was feeling that they were locked up, but this somehow unleashed you in some sense, right? So it was able to actually get you and explore a few things. So how was it for the second years? So you finished your first year, you move on, you're finishing your second year, right? So, and it's a different setup. You were actually in the university campus, unlike the undergraduate. Well, Nashra is from Lucknow and she moved here, but most students in the city are kind of locals. I mean, or maybe they are not. How has it been for the students in the university campus? How did the routine change? What was the focus? And what did you explore? What are the things you found exciting? Was it similar to what the first years have found, or has it been different?
I think one aspect that has been slightly different for us is that, we first things first, getting used to it, we didn't have much of a strong internet connection. Many of us faced that issue. So we couldn't explore as much as we wanted to. So that took a long while for it to be normalized or get used to it. And some even now, they don't have even a little bit of it at least now I can do this and many others can't. But once that hurdle was more or less crossed, we realized that we could pick and choose what we wanted to learn, in the sense that, okay, if you know a subject already and there are certain aspects that you're familiar with, some which you're not so familiar with, we could choose, okay, I'll go and learn this, what I'm not familiar. And then if I feel like, okay, so this is connecting it to that and I don't recall, so I'll go back to that. And I could pick and choose what we wanted to learn. And not only that, like one aspect that was way better here was that I could visualize like protein structures or internal organs or any mechanism that is very hard to show on a blackboard. And not only that, I could do all that from the comfort of my room, on my bed, in my pajamas, with no pressure to, you know, get up, go to class. And it's all very relaxed, but there are, you know, internet connections and other issues.
Yeah, we'll come back to the challenges in a minute, because I think those are very practical and very important issues to address. So I think like the 10th class students, which is they have their own issues. So Mahati and her peers, they are supposed to be done. They're supposed to be now graduates, and suddenly they are not sure what's happening. So Mahati, what was your experience there, and what has it been like the last 3 months, and how does the next few months look like, in terms of finishing your degree and whatever your aspirations are for the next phase? How does that look?
Actually, when this lockdown started, we were it was unexpected, and we didn't know what to do and what was happening at all. So like now the situation is like, we are not graduated yet, we are graduated. Like we are in between. We don't know what is happening and what is going to happen. We are like completely stuck in between.
Has it been fun? Has it been a good thing where you also started exploring things, or was it? Well, I'm sure it was both stressful at times and exciting at times. So share us a couple of things that have been exciting.
Yeah, the most interesting thing that I have done in this gap of 3 months is like I attended an online session for a period of 1 month. And the most interesting thing after I completed the 1 month online course was that during the course, when I was doing the course, I was going through a very new thing that was not at all included in our bachelor's curriculum. And it was like very interesting. And I didn't know anything of that. Like I was learning R programming. I didn't know not even a single word about that. But later, when I was going through that, I didn't know many things. So I had to search it upon by myself and do everything on my own. And at last, when I was about to complete it, it was like, it gave me a feeling of, wow, I did it on my own. So that kind of self-learning, that feeling that gave me was very good. And like, if someone would have helped me, I would not get that much of satisfaction when I did it on my own. So that was one of the most interesting thing. I was not spoon-fed. I did it something by myself, and it was quite good.
You're saying that somehow, we'll come back to this. It's a very, very interesting point that you raise, that you wanted to, in fact, in some sense, you want to be left alone. You want to be left alone to explore. So it's almost like somebody just needs to show you certain doors or certain paths, and then you want to really explore them by yourself. And somehow we are not able to accomplish that in the current setup, notwithstanding the COVID situation, but in the regular format, we are not achieving that. And I think that's something, it's an important point for us to note. So I'm glad you made that point. So we'll revisit this. This is an important point. So we'll go to Lalita, who is actually representing a situation where you're done. You were expecting not much of, you are not going to go to college. So life is supposed to be relaxed. How has it been for you? What was exciting that you were on your own, by the way, right? So you were not expecting anything from a college. And I'm guessing you were depending a lot on the internet. So how has it been different? Has it been different, or has it been not much of a difference?
So when, as an undergrad, when you start exploring your options, you might see very little. And when you drop a year to be able to explore what options you have and choose, make a informed decision, you want to be able to get out there and explore each of those options. And in biology, most of the times, when you're interested in research, a lot of learning happens in lab. Yes, learning can happen without the lab, but the things that you can learn from experimentation. And I think all of the people on this panel and maybe even everyone listening can relate to that. You learn differently when you're in a lab. And that, it's like I am handicapped. I do have a source to learn from, but there's a limit to what I can learn because I can't be in a lab or I can't meet people. And essentially a gap year is more about networking, so you can talk to people and understand what are the options out there, which cannot happen as good as it would if I could go out there.
But has it been interesting? So that's definitely not something nice, or at least it's not what you expected. But did you enjoy any part of it? I mean, suddenly, did it give you a new perspective that you didn't have before?
Yes, it did. A lot of things, when you're on a run, you might put them in the back seat. Okay, this is for later when I have time. Could be reading, it could be learning a new skill that can be done online and such things, which you put a hold on. And this period gave me the time to do that without having to worry that I'm missing out on something. So
can you give me an example? Can you give us an example of what you were doing and then suddenly saying, once this lockdown started off, well, you were constrained. You couldn't do much of what you wanted in terms of networking and things like that. So give us an example of what did you discover? What was exciting?
Yeah, so for a long time, I've been interested in, let's say, science communication and also the aspect of biophysics. And I felt like I was not equipped enough to do it because of my basics or my understanding, which wasn't strong enough. I took courses, I tried different things, I tried to learn how to program, I tried to understand how biology can be done quantitatively and all such things. I wouldn't do this otherwise when I was at a run. And in this period, I was so relaxed. Like all the other part of the years, as much as you want to think that a gap year is all about being relaxed, it's anything but relaxed. You are actually worried about things. So yeah, this time did actually give me that space to relax and see what is my priority, figure out, and then do it at ease.
Very nice. So let's switch gears a little bit. So we've heard a few things about what was not so nice. What was the disadvantage? We've heard a few comments about technical aspects, personal aspects, in terms of not being able to meet friends. I think Ria or Gayatri briefly mentioned that they were not able to meet friends, which is an important part of our life. And content-wise, so what was disadvantage? And we heard a couple of comments about not being able to access labs. So quickly, how was it? What are the disadvantages? Maybe 1 point or 2 points quickly from each of you in terms of technical difficulties, social difficulties, content difficulties, and we'll come back. Let's finish that round, and then let's come back to some just quick remarks, and then I'd like to hear specific examples after that. So keep thinking about that. But first off, just say what was your major hurdle or major disadvantage because of this lockdown. So we'll start off with Lalita because we're already talking. So we'll go from the post-bac to the high school.
Yeah, as I was mentioning before, all the things, not being able to learn from hands-on experiences, not being able to network, the content that is out there, not being able to segregate the content in some sort, because all these things, all these aspects of networking do also give you that advantage. You understand what sort of content to seek. I think there's a lot of content out there to learn from, but the direction and such things are missing. And that's something I wish went differently. So that's one big lacking part of being a post-bachelor student and learning online. But it's good that there are lots of forums online for the very small representation space of post-bachelor students too. So, yeah.
Okay. Mahati, what again, you kind of mentioned a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, the main holes that I saw in this online education is that there is no room for doubt clarification. Like I see it as a major problem for the students like me at least. And the other thing is there is no individualized teaching or individualized approach. And then like the virtual labs, even though we are not being able to do something in the normal labs, So even though the teachers are showing something in the virtual labs, like we do not get enough motivation or satisfaction by seeing that. And I think this online teaching and everything, it kills our imagination and creativity. So we are not even imagining. The teacher says something, they show something, and we are not able to respond to it.
So can you give an example? Can you think of an example? You can make it up if you want, or if you can remember something. So, for example, I mean, basically, you're saying that. I mean, I was really struck by your comment about lack of imagination. So, again, I didn't think through this carefully. I would have thought that without the social circumstance of a classroom, I would be left to a greater imagination. But it's very interesting to hear that your imagination was constrained. But I can see that point as well, in the sense that social interaction precisely creates an environment for new thoughts, which probably is not coming when you're sitting in your own room. So again, I think that's probably what you said, but can you think of an example, or can you share a little, elaborate on that point?
Yeah, maybe suppose, let's take an example. The teacher is teaching me the topic of transcription. When we go through a book, or when a teacher is telling us, we don't see anything happening in front of our eyes. So we imagine it in our brain. So this comes like this, and this, the polymerase comes here, this comes here, and that comes here. We imagine it ourselves, and it keeps us motivated, and it keeps us motivated to learn more. And in this online teaching, when the teachers show the animations, like everything is very crystal clear in front of our eyes, and we don't put stress on our brain, and we don't give something to our brain to work on. So it's like everything is like spoon fed.
So I'll move on. I mean, I'll take that point. And I'll ask Sarah, Acharya, and Akarsh. Isn't that a nice thing? Isn't that a nice thing that let's say the protein models are available, or for example, one of my favorite thing is the Howard Hughes Medical Institute's animations about transcription translation. So doesn't it free you up where you are actually seeing something from a research perspective in either structures or functions? So Sarah, I mean, you guys, do you have any comments about taking the lead from Mahati's point of view?
So what we did in our university once was we had these protein model kits, which were basically, they were like bricks, like Lego bricks, and every amino acid was a different kind of brick, but they were generalized. So hydrophobic ones and hydrophilic ones, they were similar. And we had, the bricks would be joined by the disulfide bonds or the traditional,
peptide bonds.
The peptide bond, yeah. So we used our own hands and, tried folding it into alpha helixes. And for people who don't know that much biology, it basically means that a lot of complicated stuff resulted in a lot of complicated stuff. Basically, I think it helped us memorize. More importantly, for example, proline is a part of the, I think, alpha helix break chain thing. So that, and that is something that happened in a classroom environment. I think I do agree in part to what Mahati said. For instance, if let's say we have a protein structures are pretty complicated, the real structures. And maybe sometimes simplifying it, like depending on the level of depth we are aiming for, given that we are undergraduate students, it's not necessary that, that we look at something at the greatest visual capability as possible. For example, atoms, like you would tell a child or someone in 7th, 8th, 9th that an atom has orbitals and it has electrons moving around the nucleus. But as we move on later, that's not the actual case. Like we don't know where the electron is. We have to use Heisenberg's uncertainty principle and calculate probability. So I think in that sense I agree. But as far as I have experienced it, I have found that the online classes, or for example, Khan Academy and such, where I have seen photos and not something drawn on a chalkboard, it's made more sense to me. So that's my our take on it.
So what about Noreen, Nashra, and Rachna? What's your take on this? I know I would like you to specify a little more about your biggest complaint of online learning, but also you feel free to elaborate on what the ongoing discussion. Just a plug to the audience. So feel free to actually make some comments in the chat box, either here or on YouTube. You can actually we'll come back to what are liking. So in fact, what you liked about the online learning part, from wherever you're looking at this landscape, either as a student or a teacher or any part of the community. We are going to come back to how this is going to instruct us to go forward. So please do write your comments while we continue the conversation. So yeah, Noreen, take it away.
Yes, sir. So I actually agree with Mahati's point that it spoon feeds our imagination, but I also agree with Acharya's point that it also shows us how a protein is formed and everything. It's helpful in that way, and like it has both the sides. It also spoon feeds our imagination, and also it helps our imagination. So yeah, and the things which we don't like are like, we have been attending few webinars lately, and what we have observed is the content is being repetitive. So that's kind of boring, and that's that's not quite motivating. And the major setback is it gives us physical stress and mental stress, as such as eye strain, backache, neck ache, and even obesity and things like that. And it requires extreme self-discipline, which is quite, which can quite give you anxiety. And when in a classroom, it would always be a student-teacher interaction, like, two-way interaction where we would actually share our doubts and the lecturer would clear our doubts. But then now it's just left to the students, whether they grasp it or not. It's on them. Who is gonna ask them? Like, it's just, it's kind of a monologue feeling where you are left alone and you are supposed to do all the work. But then it's all about the doubt stuff. I agree that it's nice when we learn by ourselves and not with any aid. And also, I would like to highlight the point that this online education is not really accessible to a large number of people in low income and middle income countries. And India comes under middle income countries. So yeah, many students might not have access to online education here. And also, how much ever effort you put, like be it a competition or attending a workshop or anything, your appreciation or rewards are just limited to e-certificates. That's it. But when we used to be in college, like we would like earn certificates also, but medals and trophies and everything like that. That
chocolate once in a while. maybe chocolates and
yeah, chocolates and all. Small gifts, just like that. And also the major point to highlight is that some students who require extra attention and remedial, extra care and remedial attention, they would properly be approached in a regular class. But now it's like it seems to be completely impossible to approach them. Like even like they might be introverts, or like the teacher won't have the time to, attend all of them at once. So yeah, things like that happen. That's all I have to say.
Riya and Gayatri, would any points that you'd like to emphasize that has already been mentioned, or some new ideas or new thoughts on what has been kind of debilitating you or kind of constraining you? What's been the biggest disadvantage of the online learning environment?
Yes. So I think for me, and I think for a lot of my classmates as well, the biggest disadvantage is the fact that we sit on our desks in our rooms for like most of our day, up to like 10 hours and even more, because we have 5 to 6 hours of online school, and then we have more studying and more homework, which also just requires our computers and our desks and being totally alone. So what all this isolation really does is that, for me at least, it like kind of increased my stress, anxiety, and my mental health, and many of my classmates also. Our mental health isn't like where it's supposed to be. And the reason for this is because we lost like this interaction between our peers. So if we have to study for a particularly hard test or have a lot of homework, we can talk to our peers about that. We can complain together, and and then we can share the burden together, like the whole class. But now we can't do that. And it's like we're carrying all of this burden by ourselves. And that can be like, that can take a toll on our mental health. So that's what I think is the worst part about online school. And obviously, the excessive screen time we get, and again, the technical issues that affect our learning, which can put us behind our class and we have to play catch up for the rest of the week, which just increases our workload. And also, it's really easy to get distracted. Like someone else said, we need to have a lot of discipline. And honestly, I'm not someone that has that much discipline. So I tend to get really easily distracted because it's so easy to switch tabs and go to YouTube or another social media platform when we think a particular class or subject is boring. And that's all from my side.
Got it. So actually, you actually are in a nice position to discuss a point which was raised, and we'll go back to the rest of them. So you are not already and defined by the science thing. So incidentally, all the rest of them, because of who I am, they're all science. They're in the science streams. So what do you think? I can totally understand. I think it's resonating all the time about learning science and the online, the pros and the cons, the lack of labs in one situation, but the access to really interesting interactive features on the other hand as positives. How do you think, because you are not just studying science, what do you think is the learning experience from a content and the delivery point of view for the non-science, humanities and the social sciences? And I want the rest of the, I know you have not been doing that, you're mostly doing the science part, but I'd like to follow up. So once Ria and Gayatri share their thoughts on the non-science areas, how they experience that, I would like you to think about your perspective. I'm not saying from your experience, but what do you think it could be like? Hopefully my question is good, clear. So Ria, Gayatri, do you want to say something about the non-science streams?
Yes. So apart from biology, physics, and chemistry, we have our languages: English and French, mathematics, and economics, and ICT. But ICT is pretty much on the computer anyway, so there's not much of a difference. So I think ICT is really convenient online because ma'am just presents her screen and we just have to follow whatever she does. So personally, I think ICT is honestly really cool and awesome online. But mathematics also, there wasn't much of a big difference because ma'am will explain how to do a particular problem. She would put up problems and then we would do it on the paper and tell her our answers. I think economics became, I don't like economics online because this subject requires discussions. And we cannot have those kind of discussions and debates like we used to in economics class. So yes, that's like a missing factor. And for French, again, French and English also, you need to have a platform when you can express, because both languages are about expression and understanding each other. And in online classrooms, we don't exactly have this, but it's not so bad. I mean, I guess we can adjust to it considering the circumstances.
Ria, do you have anything to add or?
Yeah, like because we're in 10th grade, we actually need to get explored to other fields and get like a hands-on experience because like it's kind of hard in online education because you don't get to know about the subject more and you don't know like where you're interested in more because of the lack of exploration. So I feel that this was kind of put down because of this, and also we don't feel motivated to search on the topics individually. So yeah, I feel that's a big disadvantage.
Okay. So what about the others? So I think Sarah, you were about to chime in and say something. Do you want to share your thoughts?
So personally for me, math is a little more of a Blackboard based subject rather than just PowerPoint, because when you actually see it being worked out and how, okay, this got there and this got there. If it's just a PowerPoint, you won't pay as much attention as if it's like being done in front of you. So personally, at least for me, that is a big motivation to say that, okay, math, also online education is not really up to the mark, but I agree with the rest. And also, in my personal opinion, again, the arts and the humanities are more discussion based rather than like, solving a problem on the blackboard kind of situation. So in that sense, maybe it will be better, again, because I'm not sure, so I refrain from commenting too much.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, you can't do sculpting, or you can't do wall painting doing online stuff, right? So
Yeah,
I think
so
there are those kinds of things which you do need kind of a studio environment, not very different from a laboratory environment. So that's definitely an interesting thing. So anything, the first years, I know you, at least some of you have been doing the arts part of it. So maybe share a couple of things that you've learned, or you've not learned, or you missed out something on your art projects.
Yes, sir. Like we had like our second languages, English and Hindi, French, Telugu in our college, like apart from our life sciences majors. So usually during those classes, we used to have a lot of interactions even with other class students. Like they used to be gather of different combination students. So that interaction is missing over here. And during those classes, we used to have direct interaction with our teachers. Like what is the subject, what is the author is telling in that. I mean, she used to describe everything. But in online classes, I think it's difficult because we didn't experience that yet. Like how the humanities goes, stuff like that. But for science, I think we have lots of cons for it. I mean, for our subjects. So I think I can mention few of them. Like I think practical experiments, we first years are missing a lot because we usually love to be in the lab all the time when we were in our college. So like lack of practical experiments, lab hours, like they always allowed us to get practical knowledge. But in online learning, yeah, it is not possible. And we can only imagine that we are experimenting. It would also stop us from getting used to handle the lab equipments because it's online, and we have to just think, and we have to just sit in front of our PCs and think, yeah, we are doing an experiment. And yeah, it would also, like, of course we'll understand the theory through online, but it's difficult for us to perform an experiment and don't know when that good time get back to us to the labs. And yeah, like even virtual workshops, they give us knowledge, but doing hands-on training is more good. Yeah, so
I mean, yeah.
I think,
So clearly from all the experiences where you need direct tactile, or where you have to do things with your hands, I think definitely that's we need to find solutions. But given the circumstance that we are here, I mean, I think yes, there are lots of drawbacks, lots of difficulties, lots of challenges. How can we make this better? So you've seen, for whatever extent, you have experienced a little bit of online learning. So maybe we'll go one round. We'll go again from Lalita and all the way to high schoolers. Can you share a specific? I want you to start thinking about specifics now. One specific example, which was, it's your choice, either extraordinary, that will be replicated in other formats, or was so difficult to deal with, or it was very challenging, and what kinds of changes would you like to see? I mean, you can actually take a 30-second, anybody can volunteer the first time, but if Lalita, you're ready, you can go ahead. I mean, so, yeah, we said we'll go from Lalita to high school students, right? Yeah. So if you have something very stark, either extraordinary experience that should be replicated in other, all across the board, or something which was so bad that should never be done again. So either of them, think of an example and share one of them, please.
Yeah. So if I were to talk about one really good experience in all this while, that is one common thing that we've all done is attend webinars of some sort or the other. But I majorly see that these are of two kinds. One where the person's just telling you about all their life's work, or they're telling you about some aspect of a subject that they're studying in one way or the other. But this other kind which are directed towards all the things that are most asked by students in general. The things that we all have issues with, let's say as an undergrad, you have questions about how to make, let's say, a CV or write a motivation letter that is gonna hit all the right spots when you want it sent out there to a lab, to a professor. And some people do get guidance on this, but a lot of students don't. Even if they do, there are still a lot of questions. This is really basic, and every undergrad in every field does have to at some point learn to do this if they plan on applying to labs. And I saw a couple of Pune professors doing a small seminar sort of thing, taking in questions live as well, but mostly addressing the questions that are usually what an undergrad has. And I think this was really, really helpful. Like most of the things I did feel, okay, I knew this, but then there were a lot of things that I did not know or did not know to a right point. And it might not have helped me know exactly what I should do, but it did in a way tell me what I shouldn't do, or what I should and how much I need to plan to get it right. And that's the kind of thing. Yeah.
I hear three things. One is the nature of the content, right? So the content was not your textbook kind, very practical. It's one thing to read about it, but so that's one thing, the content itself. The second part, what I heard from you is the nature of the conversation. So it's basically because it's a conversation and it was interactive, that helped. The third thing, I thought I had three, but anyway, let's take these 2 points. So you think the relevance of the content, which is probably much more practical, and making it interactive is extremely important. Is that right? Is that a reasonable way of summarizing your point?
Yes, and one thing that is essential to both of these aspects is that this gives what a student needs as a support to learn by themselves or to go out there and do things by themselves instead of somebody doing it for them or pushing them to do it in some sense. So yeah, it's supplementary, but very, very important.
Okay, so I think the role of supplementary information in an interactive way can be, probably should be made broadly available with this online content. So Mahati, do you have a favorite or the least favorite experience or that you'd like to share? What worked best or what worked like worst? Again, the best is should be replicated. The worst should never be done again.
Like, I do not have so many best experiences. I would like to share some of my worst experiences that I had, and that should not be repeated, I think. Like, one of the most important thing is there is nothing sort of discussion among the peers. Like, there is an online session, a teacher is teaching, and we have to wait for the entire 1 hour. And at the end, the teacher would say, if you have any doubts, you can ask them. But some of the students like me or some of my peers who do not interact so much with everyone, they do not tend to show up their doubts or any questions that they might have. So this is one of the big point. And in online education, like in a general class, when a teacher says, mostly in chemistry or physics, we learn what to do and what not to do and why not to do. But in online education, like the teacher puts a PPT, and there everything there that they are representing is what is correct. And we do not know what is wrong and why is it wrong, or we do not know why it is correct. So that sort of thinking is, I think it is restricted in some way.
So it's about,
I think the discussion among the peers should be more encouraged. Like if we give chance for the students to discuss among themselves, but some wild thoughts flowing without disrupting their creativity. Like at the end, if the teacher would say, this is the correct point, then the student might think, oh, okay, I came to this level, so I would rise up to this. And then, so I was wrong because of this small point that I have made. So this is the correct thing. So that feeling gives that's a good feeling, I guess.
So less of monologues or long drawn unidirectional content presentation, and probably break it down a little more and create room for more interactions. Again, I think the interactivity is coming back again. What about you guys from the University of Hyderabad campus? Any thoughts on, again, your best or your worst experience in the last 3 months?
As a person who's studying physics, I have to deal with a lot of math often, and math resources being found online is going to be something like Sarah said before, math shouldn't be static, and finding dynamic math resources online is something that's pretty hard. So I guess I have a good experience to share in this regard, and that's finding Desmos. Desmos is basically an online graphing calculator which lets me try out all kinds of graphs with a good deal of personalization, and I get to tweak the content a lot. And this helped me understand waves and oscillations a lot. And I could say that in case steps could be made to make online education interactive with regard to the more theoretical kind of subjects such as math, it could be really helpful. And I think something along the lines of Desmos would be a good step there because it brings up visualization and it also makes it really hands-on because I personally got to tweak the parameters of the graph, the curve, and all that kind of stuff. It helped me understand it a lot better than what is just read in the textbooks. So if I could draw bottom line to this, it would be making the more technical stuff interactive, and online can help bridge some of that.
Sarah, do you have anything interesting to share?
Yes.
Again, positive or the negative? Yeah. Go ahead.
So, considering my areas of interest usually involve nuclear chemistry or quantum mechanics, so getting access to labs and environment which is specific to that is a little difficult in general because it's a lot of safety measures and you're not just allowed to waltz in. So in that sense, there were like a recent webinars where they basically set up Zoom cameras and stuff in the lab where it wasn't the same as like us actually doing it, but it was still, they showed us step by step of what they did, how they did it, and why we were doing that. And then there was a camera right at the dosimeter, so we could like take counts ourselves. And we were asked to analyze all the data. They didn't do any of that. They just said, okay, so we want this, and this is how you can get it from these data.
So this is live video, is that right?
Yes,
is it
this is live. This
live
is
video?
live, and they would ask us to like questions were asked like, do you know what half time is? Do you know what half length is? Do you know how to find half length? Do you know from half time to half length or whatever else? I mean, it wasn't all that exciting because we were not in the lab, but still it was very close to how it actually could be, and that was one big advantage. At the same time, my network here is horrible. Like, it's absolutely terrible. Even right now when connecting, you saw how bad it was. So I mean, half the time there were like glitches, and then it would slow down, speed up, and in that sense it was very frustrating. So I mean, I did have a lot of fun in that, and I learned a lot of stuff about how to actually take data and what not to take and what to take. But because the internet was horrible, it was not as smooth as they envisioned.
And so this is using technology to make the online almost seamless to reality, in the sense, since it was live and they were using cameras, and if you had a reasonable connection, you would not see a difference between a classroom, at least in the content wise and how you interact with the content. It's not very different from a classroom setup. Is that right?
Yes, it's pretty much the same because you get to see everything. It's not like it's just at the face of the person who's presenting. You got a camera on the dosimeter, you got a camera on the experimental setup, you got a different, and based on what was needed at the time, they'd switch. Okay, so you can turn on this camera now and turn this one on now. And
so is it similar to watching a very nice cricket match online on the TV versus in the stadium? Is that is that an advantage?
I guess so, because now you can have like two cameras side by side, and you can look at the data and the experimental setup at the same time, which is a little difficult in your
classroom
lab.
Setup. That's interesting. That's good to know. That's actually a very nice point. I mean, again, we are talking right now in terms of how can we make the online experience better. So at the moment, the discussion is focused on how to make, so now that we're doing online learning anyway, how can we make it better? So we are trying to get examples of what worked and what didn't work. So Akash, do you have any example that you would like to share? Okay, do we have Akash or did we miss him?
Sorry, my mic
Yeah,
was
go ahead.
muted. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So the way I received or I did my online education during this period was through asynchronous methods. And the problem with that is, as Mahatiti suggested, no discussion. Like even if you comment stuff on YouTube videos or Khan Academy videos for the matter, those videos are pretty old. And Acharya did in our internal discussion once raise a point that these things are never updated and hence that causes problems. So that is a thing with asynchronous videos. With synchronous videos, the problems that I faced were internet based, where I joined a webinar and I basically had internet connection issues, due to which I left the webinar in the middle. It took me 5 minutes, 3 minutes to set it back up, my internet, but when I tried to rejoin the webinar, they didn't let me because I was too late. So yeah, so internet fluctuation issues are a big deal when it comes to online education, in my opinion. And yeah, if I would have a dream, if I would think an ideal situation, as though I have not experienced one till now, it'd be something that is synchronous with, good interaction. Have, good visuals. The PPTs will be nice. The person teaching obviously should have, a person who is able to conduct the class and maintain the tempo, as well as draw our attention, because as students we tend to have less attention spans. So that's my point.
I would disagree. When was the last time you got distracted in the movie theater watching one of the movies you like? Did you doze off in any of your movies? I can claim I think in all my movie watching years, I probably actually slept off in like 3 movies. Just imagine how boring it was, right? I buy a ticket, go to a movie, and then I sleep off. So it's probably really bad movies, those movies. I tend to, as I'm growing older, I tend to sleep off more these days. But as a young kid, I slept off in 3 movies, and that's bad, right? So let's get to the first years. So quick, favorite or the least favorite experience? Akash, I didn't want to cut you off. Did you finish your point?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so maybe Nashra, take it away.
Yeah. So as Mahati and Akash said that about the in-person interaction, but I also want to emphasize on the point doubt clarification. Its online platform is actually promoting a puppet education system where a person on the screen is expecting us to understand all the things. But here we are getting a lot of doubts. Like in classroom learning, whenever we come across any doubts, I can go to the department, I can personally ask the teachers again and again until my doubts gets clear. Or even in the classroom also, if they are teaching any particular topic, and so they get to know about from our expression that we are getting it or not. So yeah, that but on online platform, it's limited only to the chat box, and at last that 10 minutes discussion for the whole class. And I think I attended a few webinars where I had some doubts, but when I posted in the chat box, then in those 10 minutes they had a lot of questions, so they chose only a few questions and they answered it only, and there my doubt left as it was. So yeah,
but I would argue that, in fact, that's a good thing, because now, unless you have another class to attend right away, isn't that a great thing that you have a doubt and you can actually, especially if it's asynchronous, that you can stop, get it clarified, and move on? That cannot always happen in the classroom environment, or it might. I can see it happen, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you, but the thing is, if I get any doubts, for example, if the person who is speaking, if I know him, like if he is a faculty, so I can text him and I can clear my doubt. But if he's a person whom I don't know, and so at that time it becomes difficult for me. So like, and in classroom learning, I can actually go to the department and I can clear my doubt. And the next thing I would love to add is as I earlier mentioned that I was really interested in psychology, so I attended a course there. They put up the situations and they ask us to ponder upon them. So I would love if lecturers at the last of their lecture, they give us some task, or they give us some kind of points to ponder upon. Like being a life science student, I have some points like if the person has done, for example, if any scientists have done that research, so if I were on his place, then in how differently I have approached it, or how differently I have viewed that scenario, or like if I would have been at that place, then what things I would have done, like in what manner I would have done the research kind of thing. So yeah, I would love to add this if my lecturers do this thing. So it will actually make the lectures interesting also, and the subjects, that it will increase our knowledge also when we'll search those things, that how differently we can do that. So yeah, this thing I want to add.
Maybe the last three people who have to chime in. So can you share one really exciting thing that you would like to see happen across the board? Rachna, Noreen, Ria, and Gayatri. Something you can think of.
Yes, sir. Like during this lockdown, and maybe like after 2 weeks or so, we just got introduced to this bioinformatics course. But we didn't know like how the course will be. But we were excited to learn because it was something different, and we were going to second year, and we thought, let's get boosted with some extra knowledge and go to the next semester. So then, like, we just joined this course, and which was almost for 3 weekends. I mean, we had this course, and then it really became very hectic because they did not have an option to choose the level. Though it was interesting, it was useful, and there were many MSc and PhD students. Like, it was not like they were there with us, but they didn't have any level like beginner, intermediate, or advanced level. So like if we would have that option, then we would have got to know like to which level we can approach to, because right in the first year, um, grasping together a lot of knowledge, that too like it was almost for 3 hours continue, and we just had breaks like 5 minutes break for every 1 hour. So it was going very hectic. They gave practice papers after the session, but when they were teaching like how to use the websites like NCBI, PDB, but we couldn't do it simultaneously, and how to use it, like in order to listen the lectures, and later it became very difficult to understand, like as it was advanced level course, and which they did not inform us beforehand. So I think if we get such options, then we could improve in our further learnings also, because this pandemic, I don't know till how long it will go, but I think we could improve in that.
Okay.
And
so yeah.
And
Noreen,
also like
yeah, go ahead, Rachna, go ahead.
And it's like the thought of like sitting in front of a device for a whole day itself is quite not motivating, whereas going to places and learning new things keeps a person spirited and enthusiastic. And I love like going to different places, interact with them, and like look at the environment, get peace. But in this time, I mean, in this situation, we can't do that stuff, but yeah, we could try something better. So I think over to you, Noreen.
Noreen?
If you can add anything.
Yeah. So when this lockdown started, the Department of Microbiology from our college, they initiated this challenge of making a 3D model of coronavirus within 24 hours. So I found that it was quite interesting, and while making it, I realized all about those proteins and the structure of the virus, and like we spread this challenge across, and that was quite interesting. And also there are many e-challenges like Tide Turner's challenge by WWF, which actually helped us, like really helped us. It made us do several activities, and it actually made us realize how plastic is affecting the environment, and it significantly reduced the use of plastics in our lives. And there are several platforms like they're already mentioned, but I'd like to mention it again: the Coursera, Udemy, Neptile, Swayam, etc., through which we can, add new skills and enhance our knowledge and earn certificates to nourish our CV and resume. because this is the time we should be using. We won't get this time again in a century, like, or something. And you were previously talking about the art thing, like how it's gonna be when we are sitting at a home and not in a studio or something. But then I would like to add on that I've learned my art skills through Udemy, a course through Udemy, and it was absolutely fine. I didn't feel anything which I couldn't do here. It was absolutely comfortable in my home space. And we were introduced to this website called BioRender through a webinar, and it is actually a website where you can create your own science animations, diagrams, or figures. I was never introduced to something like this, so this was really new for me, and it was really exciting. And there are many poster making sites like Canva, Pictochart, and where you can create your own posters. So that is quite interesting. Like all this, this time helps us to enhance our existing skills also in like Microsoft Office and all. So that's what I found interesting.
So start thinking about lessons to be learned as we move forward, because I think the online thing will probably, we don't know. I mean, I think at least the chatter I hear is that there's a lot more excitement in online learning, creating more resources, more kinds of things. So in the last segment, we'll talk about what should we do, right? So we'll hear from Gayatri and Riya about their best experience and or their worst experience so far, so that we'll transition from there to what should we do. Gayatri and Riya, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So when it comes to what we should do, for some reason, no one else really mentioned it.
Can you quickly share something that was very exciting for you, or something least exciting for you? And then go ahead and start off go ahead and continue your thought. Yeah.
Okay, so something that was really exciting this summer, we were, me and Riya were part of this internship in Dr. Reddy's Institute of Life Sciences. And although we were supposed to originally go to the labs and have that internship, we weren't able to. But we did have it online, and that honestly, me and Riya found it really interesting, exciting. It wasn't what we thought that we would be able to do, but nevertheless, it was still a really great experience, and I think it was handled really well. Like, even though it was online, it was handled really well by the organizers, and Dr. Chala, you were the one who.
I didn't plant this. I didn't plant this thing. Thank you for the comment, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, so yeah, I think that goes for both me and Riya. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was something really exciting when it comes to online education. And now, what can be improved? Obviously, we need to find a way, especially for high schoolers, to have less screen time and less workload. We know that academics is really important, and we work really hard for it as well. But I think mental and physical health is just as important, or even more important than academics. So I believe that schools should start, they should slow down the pace at which they teach, and instead of rushing us to finish our syllabus just so we can get those marks in our board exams, maybe we can slow it down so we can have effective learning at a slower pace. And so we can enjoy the material, we can enjoy learning without feeling so stressed and burdened. That's one thing that's not working out right now that I think is a really urgent, pressing problem that we should do something about. And something that I really liked, well, I think this will just apply to my school and a few other schools as well. My school especially is really democratic about the way that they are functioning. So they're regularly giving us surveys to us and our parents, asking us about how we find online education, what we're comfortable with, what we're not comfortable with. And we actually did find some results. Like Riya mentioned earlier, most people voted for the school hours to be reduced, and within 1 weekend we did see the results. Our school time got reduced by an hour, and so it used to be until 3 p.m. now it's only until 2 p.m. And also they're having these sessions called circle time sessions. when we just talk to each other and just like we're just relieving our stress by having some sort of interaction with our teachers and with our peers. So yes, I think that's those two things, schools being democratic in the way they function and their decisions, as well as having sessions when students can just talk to each other. I think these two things are very much needed for high school students and middle school students. And that's it from my side.
Rian, do you want to finish up this, the thoughts on what worked great or what didn't work great, and the way forward, lessons learned?
Yeah, so like in summer, like I did a really interesting program, which was from the New York Academy. And so basically people from around the world could form a team and could try to find like a solution for combating coronavirus on like, it's basically using their imagination from different parts of the world. And this was really useful because we got to meet new, like very different people and their different perspectives. So like, it's really important for everyone to get access to this because it could really change their way of thinking, especially mine. So that could be, encouraged for more people. But one disadvantage are the online tests. So basically like people generally, you don't know if they cheat or not. So like it's kind of unfair for the people who study because they study and get good marks, but some people don't study and they kind of cheat by searching in Google or like referring to their textbooks. So like I believe like our school is trying to implement this. They could turn their cameras on or like have a parent like beside them. So, it's kind of like fair enough for everyone to write the test. So yeah, I believe this is the...
It's an interesting point, and it's very close to my heart. But I am not I'm not a fan of policing. So I think what I put, the thing I take it as a challenge for educators is to create assessments, tests in such a way that I want you to copy, but I challenge you enough that copying is not going to, is not enough for you to get through the test, right? And so, I mean, that's not your problem, but from a challenge to the teaching or the assessing community on how to actually create interesting ways of testing your knowledge. So that the reason I say this is because in real life, you never ever have to do what you do in tests, where you try to remember everything and write a test. In real life, when in doubt, you go and refer, right? That's what happens in real life, in the world. So I think it's a good idea to kind of use that same model even in classrooms. On that note, it's 5:20. So what I'll do, just for fun, I'm going to randomly distribute us. We are about 25 of us, right? 25, 26 of us right now. I don't know how we'll be distributed, but we'll take a 10-minute, about 10 minutes. We'll go into break rooms. And I would like all the people in the break rooms talk about where are we going ahead, right? So quick discussion about just keep focusing on with the online platforms, with online learning, what should we focus on? What should we create? Or what should be our standards? If the question is clear, I'm going to create breakout rooms. You will be sent to different groups. And I want, especially the panelists, if you find a non-panelist audience, please let them talk. And so when we come back in 10 minutes, we can all share what happened in these individual groups. Okay? So on that note, you'll be sent to breakout rooms in a second. Okay, hopefully you had some good discussions, and I hope everybody is back into the main room. So any interesting points that anyone wants to share? So I got a message that Ratnamala ma'am is actually a school principal, and she'd like to share some thoughts. So ma'am, go ahead. Yeah, please share your thoughts.
So all over here, I think are students, right? I'm probably the only one, or is there anyone else on the other side of the fence?
There are other as well, but in your group, it turns out you're probably the only non-student who showed up. because it is a random distribution. So there are a few others who are not students.
Okay, so here the question is that how to make it interesting, and there were two questions, right, Mr. Anil? You had.
Yeah,
Can you just
essentially,
repeat those two?
yeah, essentially it boils down to what have we learned in terms of best practices, and what kind of efforts should we put or make so that we make online experiences rich and engaging and effective going forward.
Okay. Yeah, it is like when I come to the field of education, it is the basic structure is always the same. You have the level of pedagogy which is there, it is the same. You have your thought-provoking questions, you have your content which is there, and then you have your evaluation. And whatever is being done in the undergrad level, the same thing you penetrate down to a school level. What are the lessons learned? It is lessons learned, I would say that each day, every day we are becoming more creative. Let's look on the positive side. We are becoming the teachers are becoming very creative. We are finding out new ways. We are devising new ways on how to teach. That's one. And how do you take it forward? Yes, we take it forward in a very positive way, because where you will see that thanks to Zoom, which has created this break rooms for teaching, for anything which is there. If this is what my topic is, then the first one, what we do is an activity. Now, for an activity, what I meant for an activity in your session, like in the workshops, it is called as an ice-breaking round. The first is an ice-breaking round. You get to know what is the pulse over there. Then you go about explaining the content. Now, the content again, like one of the students over here said that it is something I know what the content is already, so I don't need a live one. But it depends upon the ingenuity of the teacher. How do I make it very interesting? A teacher, I have cited an example, a teacher wears hand gloves, some gloves, creates some pictures on the fingertips and tries to give it a theater one. That's something I'm driving back. The content is there, but I'm telling it in a different manner. And the last one, what we have, if our time scale is of, suppose we take it of 45 minutes, the first one is your ice breaking round, then comes the content, and the last one, which is there, which comes as an evaluation. How do we do the evaluation? It is the Google Forms, which is there. Whatever I have taught now, the same thing, we put it in the Google Form with multiple choice questions. Again, that is graded. We have the first ones which talk about factual questions, then we have an implied one, then we have your analysis one, which is towards the end. Based on that.
So are you principal of a college or a high school or college?
School.
School, okay. It's a high school.
We have classes till class 8.
8, okay. So it's all end of middle school, essentially. Elementary through middle school. I was assuming 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. This is a high school. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So middle school, we call it more as a upper primary.
Okay.
Okay. So, and then this evaluation. So the teacher gets to know that, where is the class weak in? Okay, the class is weak in your HOTS, which is their higher order thinking one. The class is okay, good in that factual one. You get the entire grid over there once you already key in the answers.
So the question is, these are very well known, right? So this is probably known in the education literature. So what is that we are not doing well, in the sense, so are we missing an opportunity here with where we are right now? And are there specific, maybe 1 or 2 examples where we can focus on and actually make it better? Do you have a couple of specifics that you might want to share?
Yeah, specific is that after these are the specifics. Number 1 is that after the class, immediately there should be an evaluation. And then before the class ends, there should be an exit ticket. What is an exit ticket? In the chat box, it is kept over there. What I have learned, what I need to work on, what I could not understand.
Okay. So this is assuming that these are for a live synchronous classroom sessions. Is what the things that you mentioned are for synchronous sessions, how to handle it, and not very different from the philosophy that goes on in a classroom as well.
No, this is live, and also we send the pre-recorded audio videos also. Suppose
so
you have
kind of a flipped classroom, something like a flipped classroom where they already watch the lecture and then you can have a discussion, kind of a forum. when
Yeah,
in the
this
during
is
the live
just as
session?
this is just as like, backup. Suppose that there is no power in the teacher's house, then the discipline teacher or the co-teacher can play this video.
And then do the flip. So because they would,
Yeah.
actually no, this is still synchronous. It's just playing the video out there and maybe pausing it at times and then asking questions and things like that.
Yeah, that also is done, but that's by the co-teacher. Just in case if the teacher is like, there's there's no power in the teacher's house, or the bandwidth is low or some problem over there. The next one, it is helpful for even the students also, because in my house also, if there is no signal strength as a student, then I can follow up with this. The chat questions which are there, that is also available on the app, and that will be available till night 9 o'clock. So I can solve it.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments that came out, like interesting ones that we didn't discuss during the open session earlier before the break rooms? Anything, anyone, one or two comments quickly? Any of the panelists, do you want to summarize if there was an interesting conversation that you were having, can you summarize it quickly?
If I may.
Please go ahead.
So Pratik, who was in my break room, who's my junior in college, he had a suggestion that online classes could not have a attendance thing. What would that entitle is the student, if there was an attendance issue. I think this also translates to conventional classes, but if there was no attendance, or there's no concept of absolute attendance, or like 75% attendance as we have in UH, the student would be more free to decide whether he wants to attend the online lecture or take up resources from elsewhere and learn from other places, and so on and so forth. I think that kind of freedom is a bit less burdening, and is something that I also would like happening in conventional classrooms, where if I know the contents of a lecture and I am 100 to 90% sure that I know what is going to be taught and I am strong in those areas, I wouldn't want to go and sit in the class. So yeah, that was a point that was raised. If anyone else would like to speak now.
Yeah, I'm in a complete, as a student, and maybe I shouldn't even say this openly, but that's a fact. I was, and this is a long time ago, so hopefully classrooms are better. So my comment belongs to the past. I didn't want to sit in the classrooms because I knew I could actually master that content very easily. So my time was very valuable in terms of, like, if I'm coming to class, I better learn something from the classroom setup, right? If it's just going to be something that I could have picked up elsewhere, why am I, because I really wanted, as a college student, I wanted to do a lot of other things. And I knew to kind of ace the exams, I didn't have to really sweat. So it could be two ways, right? So yeah, the exams are going to be the same way, so that everybody gets an equal chance. So you don't have to come to class again. So if that freedom was there, but I'm still responsible, so I can see the value of attendance. I'm not doing some unnecessary nonsense out there. I'm forced to, if I choose not to come to a classroom, then the deliverable is higher, which means there's greater expectation from me that you have to write a term paper, or you have to actually do some original research, or you have to do field research, or you write a book. Why not, right? So why don't we expect students to write a book from scratch, something like that, or write a novel? I don't know, but essentially trying to spark or fuel the creativity of students, so that we're not worried about the attendance, but we give them enough tasks that they can accomplish and motivate them to do other things. So I'm totally in favor of that. So in the last 5 minutes, so maybe I know there's a lot more to discuss, but I was paying attention to the clock. So what we'll do is, in the next 2-3 minutes, we'll take any quick comments from the audience, people who were not part of the panel, to kind of reflect upon what you liked about this session, what you liked, what you didn't like, what, if we do this again, what should we do differently, and if you would recommend. So 3 points: what did you like, what did you not like about this session, and what should we do if we do another session, what should we do the next time? Anybody who wants to volunteer? Non-panelists.
Yeah, this is the first one, is about the attendance. The attendance one, which is there, is just to know where the child is, where the student is. So taking an attendance, but not debarring shouldn't be there. That's one. The second one, what you liked about this session is that I could get to know the pulse of the students' perspective, and what changes we need to make in the a system of education, especially for the online classes, where it is more the contribution should be more from the teacher, because the teacher is the actor on the stage, and the actor plays a very important role. Then only the audience will be engrossed to it. And what you didn't like, I don't think there is anything which I didn't like. I could get all the students' perspective. Okay.
Thank you very much.
And we
Thank
should
you.
be having these sessions with more number of students, so that being on the other side, I can get to know what is the pulse, as I said, and then as I said, the basic infrastructure and basic pedagogy remains the same, and then we can taper it down and utilize it at our school level. Because adolescence nowadays doesn't start from the age of 13, or it started from the age of 8 or 9.
That is scary and sad, but yeah, if it is true, then
Yeah.
so be. What can we do? Thank you very much.
Mental one.
Yeah. No, I think every generation is slightly at a different point. If you draw the equivalent time points, they are definitely different. So thanks for that comment. So Jyoti and then Gayatri. Jyoti, go ahead.
Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. So as already ma'am said, Ratnawala ma'am, so this session had given us clear perspective about students' perspective about online education, and we will definitely try to implement the same of having a lot of interaction with the student and the teacher. The next important point, what I have to say is, it's nothing that we didn't, what points we didn't like in the session, but a suggestion is, see, what we always see is only the interested ones are participating in the discussion. So we want the entire group to be more active. In a class of 30, let us say always those 5 students are participating in the discussion and the rest of the 25 are not participating. What is that which is not allowing them to participate in such sessions? Because it happens the same in their classes too. So maybe we have to mainly bring them up into the discussion forum and say, so, okay, if now it's online, how would you like your classes to be? So let us have a survey sort of a thing, or maybe something like a discussion sort of a thing, where we can also learn from their perspectives and move ahead in future. So that is what I feel. So more and more students have to mainly come up with their ideas or with their perspective, so that we can mainly work upon it in near future, which is a requirement now.
So it is just to summarize your point. So the idea is to reach out to more students, make them part of this discussion, and find out what will make them talk or what will make them active in either an online session or in classroom. So point well taken. So thank you. So Gayatri, quick comment, and we have another Galaxy A50. So Gayatri will make a quick comment, and then we'll go to Galaxy A50. I'm sorry, I don't know your name, so I'm going to use the screen name you have. Gayatri, your turn.
Yeah, sir. I enjoyed this session. I want a repeat of this with the panelists, including parents, administrators, and all those who had invited in the audience should be a part of the panelist. At least one representation each, so that we get to know everybody's perspective. Parents, especially because it involves parents of school children, would be able to give us better perspective on online teaching. And also we should be including students from all backgrounds, humanities, arts, everything, not just science.
Fair enough. And
these are just my suggestions.
Good, very good.
Thank you.
So I'm going to put the burden on our current audience. Please send, I think you have, if not, I'll leave my email address quickly out there. And so please send me your comments and feedback, so that we can, when we'll try to redo this. If there's, in fact, if there's a resounding, if I get more than 3 emails, I'll definitely make one more session. I'll organize one very soon. But the burden will be on you to kind of help me out, bring more people. I am limited to the few excited students, and I was able to rope them in easily. But beyond them,
definitely, support is there, sir. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So Galaxy A50, and then Saleha.
Hello, sir. I'm Pratik. So I couldn't change that Galaxy A50 thing. It's my first time using Zoom.
That's fine.
The thing I liked is, like, as they said, like, we could get a different perspective. Like, though the heading was online classes with student perspective. I really wish that more teachers' perspective was in the break room. I got to know about the Ratnamala ma'am and the way they were teaching. So it was really good that we got to know some of the teachers' perspective as well. And I feel bad that we couldn't discuss, because these all things we are doing this only are available for the privileged ones, or like only the middle classes ones. So what about the government school students, and what about the small school students? Like they're they're like leaving back. So
no, in fact, that's a very big. That's actually a very interesting thing. So we are. I'm sure some people are focusing on that, but that's another thing.
That's another thing.
So Jyoti ma'am and I were discussing some time back about potential solutions, and I think it's a good time for us to do some experiments on trying to, at least in a small way, we should probably do some experiments. And this is not for students, it's the teachers and the administrators and parents and public at large, I mean technology companies, where we need to come up with solutions and at least do some test runs. So Maddie, I see your comment. I really want to take your audio one, so I just saw your name. So we'll take Saleha's comment and then go to Maddie, a good friend of mine from New York. So Saleha, go ahead. Pratik, thanks for your comment.
Firstly, it was a great session. I really liked it because I could understand the students' perspective, both advantages and disadvantages. And as Jyoti ma'am and Ratnamala ma'am said, that the activities and the students, like the number, depending upon the number of students, we can divide the students and we can make the sessions more interactive and more interesting for the students. As Jyoti ma'am was saying, if we have 25 students and only 5 members are participating, we can actually divide all the students into groups and give them some activities so that they will be more interested and more interactive in those sessions. So I could understand and learn these a lot of points, and I just wanted to say this, and I really liked the session. Thank you for inviting me for this session.
Yeah. Madhavan actually made a comment that teachers can use anonymous surveys on a regular basis using like Google Forms to get student feedback. So I tend to do that all the time. So it's already 6. So thanks, Maddie, for the comment. I mean, the suggestion.
We're already doing it, Mr. Anil. We already have, we don't work like in a regular school or in a regular institution. It is yearly planning. We have this weekly planning, courtesy the COVID weekly one. We have a debrief.
We are doing it. Like most of us, like most of the teachers are doing it.
So it's fantastic. So in fact, if you're doing it, if you're doing something good, that's fantastic. I think we should keep doing those things. And if there are things that we need to do and even address like fundamental questions like access to technology, access to better content. One of my favorite things are very, very important things is I'm not a big fan of English necessarily. It's a great tool, but having content available in vernacular, the common, most easily understand. In fact, even when I go to colleges, even though it's an English medium school or a college, I have the most animated discussions when I talk in my native Telugu or my Tuta Futa Hindi. That's when the exciting things happen. Not necessarily because still I think at some level English is kind of foreign. So the sensibility, I mean the interesting things come out in the local vernacular. So that's something, again, that's something that I am interested in, and hopefully that we'll pay attention to that as well. So I don't want to take too much of your time. Thank you for being here. I'm definitely encouraged by the feedback you've given in terms of to be able to do it again. So with that, I'll actually quickly take maybe 3 comments from the panel, last comments from you guys, so that we can close the session. Maybe we'll take 1 from high school, 1 from the first 3 years, and maybe 1 from Lalita. Just closing comments.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming. And it really means a lot to know that there are people trying to listen to what we think, because I think traditionally, usually students are not really listened to, because I mean, whenever someone's making a decision, it's because we're too young, we don't know enough, so they usually don't listen to our voice. And as a teenager, I find that happening a lot. But I'm really thankful that me and Ria were able to voice our opinions, and hopefully this will result in some change. So yeah.
Yeah.
So Ria, go ahead.
Yeah, even I believe like teenagers are judged in a particular way, but this was like a great platform to voice out our opinions. But it's not only ours, but we took our opinions of our friends as well. So we collected many various opinions, and we love to share it to all of these people who attended. Thank you.
Thanks, Ria. Maybe two comments from either the first, second, or the third year. Like, I don't know if Mahati is still there. Quick comments.
Yes, sir. Like we have just came, like we just finished our intermediate and we jumped to our degree. So even people don't listen to us, like as Gayatri said. But yeah, but yes, like this was a great platform for us to explore like whatever we have done in this 3 months and what is our perspective with regard to online education, what we have learned, what are the interesting aspects, like what we all found. And yeah, even we have asked few of our friends like, what do you think about online education? And they were like, we are just waiting for online classes to start because we are just getting bored with things happening around us, and we want to learn new stuff and we want to explore them. Yeah, so I think if Noreen can add anything, or Nashra.
So I feel like now everything what all we did in this 3 months makes sense, because I feel like it has become a story which now we are able to share with everyone. Like we are able to share our points, our views on this online education and everything. You know, like it's this is our first experience and it's really amazing.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thank you. Acharya, Akarsh, or Sarah, any quick comments?
I'd like to just say thank you, sir, for arranging this, because one thing I wanted to do was like bringing the opinions of people who usually do not have access to, you know, tech or internet and or the environment to sit and actually, you know, pay attention to online webinars or classrooms or whatever it has to be. So we have tried our best to
we should do
we
more.
have tried our best
Definitely.
to include all of their problems as well in what we have been saying. I hope we have done it enough justice from that aspect. But other than that, I think we had a lot of fun. And
Very nice.
thank you too.
Yeah. So Mahati, quick comment, and then actually Akarsh or Acharya, anything you want to share quickly?
She spoke for us. It's fine.
Fantastic. Okay, good. Yeah. Mahati, quick comments? Or
I don't think I have anything to add.
okay. Lalita, you want to finish up this?
Yeah, just one thing. Thank you so much, sir, for actually breaking us into those rooms and letting us talk to people who were listening to us all these whiles, majorly the educators. When one very good point was, which is making me think now, is that teachers are working very hard, making themselves, getting themselves familiar with all these new things. But she did mention that we are trying really hard, and that is when it hit me that what can we do to make it easy for them, and what do we have to do to make it easy for ourselves as well? My answer would be to be more independent in learning, but I think I've passed that undergraduate state where till when, we expect teachers to teach us. So I think it's for the rest of my panel here, my other friends here, juniors, to understand that, and for the rest of the students also to hear that part, that teachers are they're trying their best to do their part. So it's on us also to do something. So
yeah, and I think at the end of the day, this is definitely a team effort. I mean, we are actually not on two sides. We are on the same side of learning. So if we keep that in mind, I think we'll all really accomplish what we want to. Because I think learning is really a single way. Everybody's learning, essentially. I mean, at least the people who know me know that there's really no teaching happening. There's only learning happening. It depends on how you look at it and what you're looking at. So with that, thanks again for everybody. I really worked the panel a lot. You guys were patient. You've been kind. And thanks a lot for the audience. So I will be sending, in fact, Gayatri gave a fantastic idea. I just don't worry about within the next maybe half an hour, I'll be sending you a feedback form to all the people who attended or who couldn't attend. In fact, I'll make it something quick and simple so you can give your feedback. And I will try to accommodate or suggestions about when we should have another one. And maybe we can actually have a much more focused topic. So this was an exploratory thing. So we weren't sure, what would be really important to discuss. So now that we have an idea how to maybe make this happen again, so we'll probably have a lot more focused, maybe a series where technology is the focus, and probably bring in people who are into technology into talking like, okay, what are the real solutions out there? And then maybe content a little bit and assessments or whatever. And again, maybe make it an equal or, some kind of a decent distribution where we are hearing both from students and the rest of us who are trying to enable learning. So with that, I will take this opportunity to thank everyone once more, and I will end the session in the next 10 seconds. So thanks again. Have a good evening. Have a good morning, Maddie. We'll catch up again.
Thank you, Anil.
Thanks again.